welcome to Free Your Children. I am your host, Tiffany Boyd, and our mission here at Free Your Children is to share the truth and love about education. There's a battle raging for the souls of our nation's children, and we hope this ministry equips you for battle. Finally, be strong in the Lord and the strength of His might. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. Ephesians 6:10 through 11. I'm so excited to have our guest back with us today in the studio. Erin Cypers was a guest on one of our recent Free Your Children TV shows, and we didn't get to talk about everything we wanted to cover, Erin. That happens a lot with us.
Yes.
So we are so excited to have her back with us today. Erin is doing wonderful things right here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I wanted her to come on and share that with you, our viewers. So Erin, welcome. We're so thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Tiffany.
Well, it's wonderful. I had the wonderful opportunity to come and tour the schoolhouse here that's located on Music Row here in Nashville. And it was just such a phenomenal experience. It's beautiful.
Yes,
I might add.
We're very blessed.
Yes, absolutely beautiful. And the first time I came, you were in the process of renovating and finalizing, getting your building, your second location up and opened up. And then I haven't had an opportunity to come back and meet your staff after the school year had commenced and got to see the finishing
to work with
touches.
Us. Really? You got to work with us.
And I came in to work, and I want to talk about that. So first, if you don't mind, share with our listeners what you're doing.
Yes. So I like to call us a modern home schoolhouse because to me, we're kind of bringing back the old-fashioned schoolhouse of a day. When learning was mixed aged, when the community wrapped around the schoolhouse and education, when families were very involved. I like to think of us as a think tank with multiple possibilities that meet the differentiated needs of homeschoolers. When you and I first met, you actually said to me, you're not doing homeschooling, you're doing alternative education. And I think, which was amazing, is that, right, you've come to see, no, we are offering homeschooling too. We're offering a lot of more traditional opportunities for the traditional homeschooler, but we really are also offering opportunities for the family who is like, you know, I need to pull my kid from school. I don't know if I'm up for homeschooling, but I don't really want them, you know, in traditional school anymore. And so you rightly called it alternative education, and we are offering that too. Right? So,
and I think that people need to understand that homeschooling, by definition, is when parents direct and lead, you know, their children's education. But the beauty of homeschooling is that looks different ways for different families, depending on, you know, what they feel like that they need. And so what you're offering families is an avenue if they feel like they're not quite ready to assume the responsibility 100%, they can utilize the services that you're offering.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, and you've kind of evolved too as well with your schoolhouse and the way that things, because you've kind of expanded immensely from when, you know, you
we
first
have really good problems happening right now, which are, you know, last year our 5th graders didn't want to leave, so we decided to open a middle house sooner than we expected to, so we purchased a second building. So next year the full middle house will be open, which I believe will be 5th through 8th grade. Originally I thought it would be 6th through 8th grade. I think it will be 5th through 8th grade now. And the elementary school will be kindergarten through 4th grade. All of our classes are mixed age. So it's kindergarten through 2nd grade, 3rd and 4th grade, and then this year is 5th and 6th grade. And really most of what we do is based on, I shared a little bit about my background, that I spent a lot of time in many, many different schools. And so for me, when I was thinking about creating my own program now, was really looking at brain science, the science of happiness and well-being, and coming at this through a little bit of a different avenue, because we had spoken about how much I believe, you know, passion and joyfulness needs to be a part of education. That if we look at things like flow state, which is, you know, people who are able to work with such passion that it doesn't even feel like you and I do our jobs every day, from that place of, you know, true desire and passion, that to me, in creating, you know, the program for children, I wanted them to feel like learning felt like that for them, that set their passion for what interests them on fire and teaches them the have-tos, you know, that lead to the want-tos, right? And so, and understanding that and making it meaningful, because then you really are willing to do, you know, the harder things of learning to read or digging deeper to find information. And so the how to learn, not the what to learn so much. Although, with that being said, I think the secondary piece of what my job is as an educator is exposure to as many, I call it the buffet of choices, right? You need to see all of the things on the buffet before, you know, you know what you want. Right,
so you're not pigeonholing. I'm really frustrated at this workforce training, this career tech education that we're seeing, because this is in the public school system, because this is actually pigeonholing students, and it's customizing their education from as early as elementary school on a certain track, and they're not getting the buffet.
No.
So if they decide that a third grader is going to be a dentist, for example, or a sanitation worker, for example, or a factory worker, and they're not given this array of other things and exposure to other avenues that they could potentially explore, you know, as a career choice as they get older. If for some reason they don't find themselves doing that particular job that they have been trained from elementary school through high school, they're at a disadvantage.
That's right.
So you're actually stripping choice away from them. And I've seen studies, they've done studies in other countries about this, these children that have been pigeonholed like that and forced, you know, into a career path, and then if that job became obsolete, those young adults or adults, they are at a disadvantage because they don't have the skills they need to assimilate into any other career field.
And they haven't been taught how to learn.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
They've been taught what to learn.
And what to do.
And so they become much more limited, right, in their ability to be flexible. And to, you know, to kind of, you know, hit the curveball, right?
And it was fascinating because Free Your Children does seminars all over the state of Tennessee and in other states when we're asked to come into their area as well. And we customize them, you know, depending on where they live, to talk about a lot of the things that I've been warning about. And we have information, you know, there on our website, freeyourchildren.com, for anyone that's interested that can go and look at some of the things that we discuss in these seminars. And I was in Alabama recently presenting for Focus on America, and when I was there, we started talking about this, the career tech, you know, education. And, you know, they said, we're seeing this here, and it's at a disadvantage. And there was a gentleman in the audience, and he worked for a corporation, and he said, it's very interesting that you're saying this, because our corporation had a day where they brought young people in, and they had partnered with another country. And so these students had come over to the U.S. to tour, you know, this specific place where he was working, because I don't want to say the name. And he was asking them, well, what are you interested in? You know, well, they knew exactly what they were going to be when they graduated, not because that's what they wanted to be, but because that's what they were assigned to. And their entire education had been focused around that particular job. And that is happening now in the United States. And I'm telling parents, it sounds great. You know, they wrapped it up, they do this often, in a pretty little package, but it's not good, because it's limiting our children. And what you're doing is giving them this feast, and that they can discover what it is that they're interested in.
Some children come into this world knowing exactly what they're destined for, right? And others just don't. And I feel like I used to see more passion in kids than I do now. More of them are needing exposure to more things now because they don't know anymore what they want to be. And I think, you know, the difference too is we don't really know what our future is going to look like. Right. At this point, we don't know what we're educating children for. At this point, because we haven't lived what will come.
Exactly.
And so we want to offer them all of these choices that ignite passion, that ignite, you know, desire to learn, how to learn. And all of their strengths, right? We teach through the 6 C's. So whenever my teachers create, and I'll explain what that means, a lesson for the kids, they think about like confidence, content, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creative innovation. And they bring all of that to a lesson, which then makes the lesson hands-on and quite exciting, right? And when you learn those skills of how to collaborate and negotiate, how to have differences of opinion with one another, and that those differences elevate the thinking as a group, right? And that you're given and scaffolded those tools, which my teachers are more concerned with those tools than embedding things to memorize in kids, which is really a dying art. We walk around with an encyclopedia in our pocket, right?
Yes.
I mean, we don't need that information in the same way that we used to need information. And so it's really beautiful to see all of that. And with the mixed age, you see the older kids who are inspiring and mentoring the younger kids, and we know that the younger kids learn by modeling, and they're looking up to and wanting to be like the older kids. And so it creates this beautiful environment of community, which is a gift to the children too, because so many kids are feeling lonely now and you know,
and that's one of the many benefits of homeschooling in general is, you know, we're still, and this just kills me because after all the years that homeschooling has been, you know, legal and been implemented, we still hear the socialization myth, and that's what it is. It's a myth because homeschoolers, I often say to people, do you understand the irony in what you're saying? Public school kids are boxed off in a room with children that are exactly the same age as them all day long, and they move through classes, and they don't have any interaction with other ages. You know, it's just such a boxed in model, and education for homeschoolers doesn't look like that.
No,
because everything is multi-age. I mean, they are learning from adults, they're learning from older siblings and other families that have multi-age children. You know, within their family, and they're getting to get, so their experiences are much more rich in terms of who they are interacting with on a regular basis. And we hear often when we take our children places, you know, out in public, and they interact with other people, and they will say, I can tell your child is homeschooled because they look me in the eye and they know how to carry on a conversation with someone that's older than them or someone that's younger than them. And I'm like, well, they really haven't had a choice because they've been exposed to that their whole life.
I mean, we say that the neighborhood is our campus, right?
Exactly.
And the beautiful thing that's happening right now, especially in Nashville, is, you know, there's so many places that offer homeschool programs, right? And so, you know, we're out in the community and we're having these experiences, and our kids are having to order for themselves, and they're having to buy tickets, and they're having to talk to people they've never talked to. And we're preparing them for all of that, right? We're teaching them the skills to be in the world, where school, like you say, it's in one room with one teacher. They're not being exposed to multiple things, right?
And
or
you're
at least
not allowed
real
to
world
talk.
experiences,
That's
right?
Yeah.
Raise your hand when you have an idea.
And you're not allowed to talk to your neighbor. And I remember when I was teaching, and even when I was a student, one of the favorite things to do for punishment was to take away talking at lunch. So then you had to sit through your lunch period and you couldn't talk. And then they'll oftentimes take away recess as a punishment.
So now they haven't moved at all, right?
And you're not allowed to socialize at all. And I was always the kid that got the X and controls talking because I had so much that I wanted to say. And and I was an only child growing up too. So, you know, so I tell people all the time, that is just a misconception and a myth that has been consistently recycled over and over again. And it oftentimes comes from people who have really had no experience with the homeschooling community.
But it's also the training that the teachers are getting, right? You know, it's interesting because I teach, you know, I mentor my teachers, and I'll say the book is always there, but the discussion leaves. Right? And why are you reading the book? You're reading it to discuss. Well, if the child wants to have a conversation of it, you can come back to this. The words won't change there, but these words are lost oftentimes. Right? And, you know, oftentimes teachers say, you know, wait till the end of the story. Hold your question. You know, it is the collaboration, the discussion, the communication, the sharing of ideas, right? And you get to do that as a homeschooler or in these smaller classrooms.
And I had
and that's where the meaning is,
absolutely.
right?
And I had the fantastic opportunity to meet your teachers and work with them when we were working on doing some collaborative work. And one of the fun things that I experienced over our homeschool career was working with groups of homeschoolers and offering them learning opportunities and co-op classes. And, you know, I am a huge literature lover. I'm a huge history buff, but I believe in living books, and I believe in making the learning come alive.
That's right.
And so I'm seeing you implement things of that nature in your classroom, in your schoolhouse, which just totally excites me. And it was wonderful to spend some time with your staff, your teachers that you have there, and watch how excited they were when I was explaining to them, you know, the things that I had implemented, that I know that you plan on using a lot of those things in your schoolhouse. And I think that that's what families need to understand, is that learning should be fun. It should be exciting for the kids. You know, they should be excited to see what's around the corner, what's in that book, what they're going to be doing next. But, you know, and I feel bad for the teachers that are locked in the public school system, because you can't be creative much.
They're getting
you don't have the time.
Now.
That's right.
They're literally getting scripted.
I
mean, you know, it was interesting, Tiffany, when I was interviewing, you know, teachers that were coming into me with master's degrees. They literally were saying, you know, I have them come in and teach a class as part of their hiring process for me, because I want to see them interacting with the children. And the first question is, where do I plug in my PowerPoint? And I said, oh, we don't do that here. You know, like we believe in more of the old-fashioned learning, where the kids are still writing, they're doing cursive, they're, you know, learning from books. I mean, yes, do we incorporate some technology? Absolutely. We want our kids to be prepared for the future. But kids learn how to do those things in 5 minutes. Right?
They're they're better at it than we are.
That's right. And you can't take away what the screen does, right, to their brain. I mean, we now know how detrimental all of that screen time is. And we're really saying to them, when we're plugging in, you know, a device, there's one way to learn. And that's so not true. Right? And so when you teach through the 6 C's, or you do these, you know, diverse methods of teaching, you're teaching to every child in your room, right? Hands-on teaches to everybody. Where typical classrooms are just auditory or the visual of the screen, right? And there's very little interaction happening.
There is. Tell us about the families that have chosen to utilize what you're offering. Do you have a lot of families? What do the classes look like the class size?
So our class sizes are around 12 kids per class, and that's a mixed age pod. Right now we have 3, we call them learning houses, because we're a homeschool. And there's one lead teacher or coach, as we call them, but then we have specialists coming in. So we have a writing specialist, a reading specialist, a math specialist. The Adventure Science Center actually comes to us now and runs their homeschool program. So we can bring in these outside programs with teachers who really are super passionate about what they're teaching, because it's their thing, right? And so we want there to be, you know, a person that the children can rely on all day to help facilitate, to know what's going on, to be there, to be someone they can, you know, count on and work out, you know, whatever needs to be worked out. But we really love that the learning is being driven by, you know, not only passionate teachers, but people in the community who that's their field of expertise. You know, if we're teaching marine biology, we bring in a marine biologist.
I always
and you
did
can do that as a homeschool, where you can't do that in a regular school. Even a private school, you can't really be doing those things, right? Because
I utilize the community. Yes, I utilize the community when we were doing those programs as well. That's what, you know, I was there when I was collaborating with your staff, and I said, they're your friend. The community is your friend.
And it's been amazing, because there hasn't been one person that's turned me down when I said, would you come in an hour and talk to the kids about, you know.
And they're excited.
And
most
they're
of them are
excited to do it. And the teachers help guide them in the process of how to work with the kids. And and they usually ask to come back again. And the kids get super excited.
The kids get excited. You are bridging the gap between community and the students. And they're also getting to see that education because they might not be familiar with homeschooling or have any experience with a different type of learning other than traditional public school. So it works both ways. It's bridging the community, you know, from the homeschool standpoint, but also, you know, teaching the kids to utilize the resources in their community as well, and giving them such a diverse experience.
That's right. Yes. And they have the ability, you know, a lot of times these people will, you know, offer apprenticeships or offer hands-on ways for them to get involved because they want a mentor. And you know, in this country, we don't do a lot of mentoring. We don't do a lot of passing down our stories and sharing and collaborating. We tend to separate everybody into groups, right? And in other places in the world, you know, information is passed down generationally, right? And so I'm trying to bring a little bit of that back, and we can do that through a homeschool model, and people are really excited about that.
You have the freedom and flexibility to do that.
And they really, people I think are craving community, and so we're giving them a way to get involved instead of what schools are doing, which is saying, sorry, you're not, you don't get to be here, right? And so I think parents are also learning from us, you know, how we speak to children, how we engage children, how we deal with, you know, social emotional issues, because they're in the schoolhouse, right? As often as they want to be collaborating.
That's what I was going to ask. Can parents come and go if they choose to send their children there for?
Parents are always welcome in our schoolhouse, and that to me is really important, because
do they utilize that ability to be able to come in and see how the day's going? And
so we have parents coming in to serve hot lunch. We have parents getting, you know, coming on field trips with us. We go on field trips once a week. Sometimes parents will want to come in and see what's happening in a particular class, or they'll know somebody that can enhance a lesson. Because we do something called photo documentation. So every day the parents are getting pictures of what the kids are doing with write-ups, so they know exactly what's happening in the classroom, which was one of the things that's really important to me too, because you know, I have 2 grown children. If someone would have told me that I wasn't supposed to know what was happening in their school, that would have been a big red flag to me. I would have found that pretty upsetting. And so I really want parents to be involved in their, you know, what's happening in their children's learning. And it also helps with, you know, at the end of the day, when you say to your child, what'd you do in school today?
And they say nothing.
Or I don't know, or I don't want to talk about it, right? You have all these beautiful pictures of their day, and you can say, well, tell me more about that, or it becomes a discussion. And so, you know, it's important to me that we're bringing families back together again, too, because there's been this division in the family created, you know, by traditional school, by homework, by the systems that are put in place. And so...
and let's talk about that.
So my families want that.
Yes,
right?
And I want to talk about that, because what we see a lot with children who go to public school is they're there, and some of them have to go early for before care. You know, they're there for early breakfast, and then they navigate throughout their school day, and then oftentimes they will go to after school care, so it will be really late when their parents come and pick them up. And then they go home and they have hours and hours of homework.
That's right.
So what do you say about that? What does that look like at your homeschool schoolhouse?
Right. So I think I've shared this with you, is parents will say to me, you don't give homework? And I say, no, we don't give homework. I said, because I don't want to tell you what to learn with your child after school. I want you to decide what you learn with your child after school.
Right.
So it's not that I don't believe that there should be learning happening or exposure, or I encourage families to read together, but like get into something together that you're learning about, right? That's going to bring you closer together, unlike most homework that divides you.
Absolutely, yes.
And so, yes, so I highly encourage learning to happen outside of school, just not for us to dictate what that should be, because it may not be your specialty as a parent, and then it creates a lot of anxiety for everyone, right? And a lot of,
that's what happens.
You know, bad feelings. It is what happens. It's like one of the #1 things that I hear families fighting about.
Yes, is homework, and the tears at the kitchen table, because the parents don't understand the Common Core nonsense, and that was exactly what it was created to do, is to create a division, you know, so that the parents would, you know, the kids are going to look at the parents and say, well, you don't know how to do this. I have to go to the expert, when it's really just a bunch of nonsense, you know, in general, and it was created to drive a wedge within the family unit.
Right.
So parents, this allows them the ability to be able to do things that are conducive to learning, and also just conducive to developing good quality family relationships. So that, you know, after a long day, you can come home and spend time productively together instead of, you know, arguing over worksheet after worksheet of math problems.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the research all indicates too, by giving children the freedoms to discover on their own, you know, learning goes way up.
Absolutely.
Way up.
We've lost creativity because, you know, if children have every waking moment of every day scheduled for them, they don't know how to do anything independently. They don't know how to use their imagination because they've never been given the opportunity to exercise that muscle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or the freedoms.
Right. Absolutely.
And you have to have time as well to be able to do that. And I say we have all different kinds of families in our school. You know, homeschooling is not for one kind of family anymore. You know, we have, you know, families where both parents work. We have families where one parent is at home. We have all different kinds of backgrounds from all different places in the world. I think it's people who really see that traditional education is just boring is the main word that I hear.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, I couldn't do it as a kid. I don't want my kid to have to do it, right? There's that like awareness of, you know, I know that it's not right, but I don't know what is, and you know, can you help us?
Yes.
And we are helping people, and
absolutely.
there's a lot of resources out there for people willing to take the leap.
For information about what Erin is offering, drop me an email at freeyourchildren at freeyourchildren.com or freeyourchildren@gmail.com, and I will be happy to connect you with Erin. But what's important, we hope the takeaway here is that there are options.
That's right.
And options look a lot of different ways. So there's no one way that you have to do this. And we want to be able to give you the freedom and the flexibility to decide what looks best for your family and your children.
That's right.
So that you can customize it so that your child can have the experiences that they need and so that they can be successful. And, you know, I agree with you. I believe that it is definitely a restitution of the family unit. So if you are a parent out there and you are looking for alternative educational options for your children, homeschooling options for your children, please reach out to me at freeyourchildren.com. Erin is amazing. Her team is amazing. I'm so excited to be working with you, and I know that we will be doing much more together in the future, and I would love to have you back. Remember, we love you here at Free Your Children, but Jesus loves you so much more.